Yes, indeed, Arito. It is another entry into the toxic zone on TOX News, where I'm unfair, unbalanced, biased, and utterly toxic. This is shit to rub inside of your ears. Thank you for allowing this shit to slide in. I have a terrible program for you today. It begins with what we know about the police shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin, brought to us from the Whaley Dyer himself, Ben Chaperone. And then after that, we have Trump dropping his second term load, and any sane person would agree with it. And so, Tim Pool will tell us why he plans to vote Trump. Yes, this is all things you wanted to know and hear about. Ooh boy. I think it's about time we got so toxic that we just get wasted. Alright. So beginning up first, Benny, take it away. What do we know about Kenosha?
We begin today with another disputed police shooting, this one in Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is receiving all sorts of attention because, again, there's video footage of a fragment of the actual shooting incident. And what you will see here is disturbing, so there is your warning. What you see here is a black man. His name is Jacob. Okay, his name, according to CNN, is, I guess they're now releasing it, so I was a little hesitant about saying it. So Jacob Blake is the man's name. What you can see in this particular case is Jacob Blake walking away from the police officers who are telling him to stop. They have their police weapons drawn on him as he is walking away. He walks over to his car. It is unclear whether he has something in his hand or if he doesn't have something in.
I can't even explain right now how many times this video is being replayed. Once is enough, Ben. Once is enough.
In his hand, it is unclear whether there is something in the car, whether there isn't something in the car. And then they shoot him when he reaches into the car.
It's a 30-second video with as little context as we can possibly get. And it got played at least 6 times. You know, I know that his show is a podcast, but I have to imagine that some people watch it. How many people were listening to it too? Were you just hearing the gunshots in the background? Like, are you just into that kind of thing? Is that like the fuck do they call that, ASMR or whatever? Is that what that is for conservatives? All right, I'm getting a bit. I'm already ad hominem all over the place. Let's just.
He's completely ignoring them as all of this goes on. He's been shot either 7 or 9 times by various accounts, and he is now in, I believe, serious condition. So he is still alive. This led off a series of riots last night in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Now, here's the thing. We literally don't know what happened here. Okay, all you know is what's on the tape. And so all you know is that there's some white police officers. They are following this black man who's walking away from them. They have their guns drawn. They have no idea why their guns are drawn.
All right. So let it be known, because Ben Shapiro is letting us know at minute 16 that we have no idea what's going on. But let's just insert our fucking opinion in here so hard.
We have no idea what happened immediately previous to this. We have heard an account that he was breaking up some sort of fight between 2 women, but we literally have no confirmation of this. We don't know whether that.
I like how dubious his face is, too, and just how much he has to reinforce the idea that we have no idea what actually happened, because duh, Ben. No fucking duh. We weren't there.
It is true. The only thing that we know in this particular case is what is on the tape and what is already on record. We know that what is on record is that he has a history of assaulting.
And what is on record? All right, see, now the reason why I started with this is because, yes, the RNC is happening right now, but, like, honestly, who wants to watch that shit live? You should take bits and pieces, because, oh, dear God, that shit is. I thought a lot of things were toxic, but, like, it's a concentration. It's almost like a live resin of toxicity. Holy shit. I watched maybe 30 minutes sum total, and oh, dear Lord. But, you know, if you want to get a piece of that, I'm sure there's more coverage later. I think I'll be talking about it probably at some point because holy fuck. But I wanted to skip the RNC for today and focus in on this because it was a pretty important event that happened in Wisconsin that's going to develop further. I mean, I feel like this event itself has just about the impact that George Floyd did, and Kenosha's going through hell. Portland's still popping off per usual, but Kenosha is on another level right now. The tensions are not even cuttable; they're cut. It's wild. So that's why I'm bringing it in. I could have focused in on RNC Day 1 or even RNC Day 2, but this specific issue is way too important. And my favorite part right now is how what we know, what is on record, that Ben is about to read off right now, has nothing to do with the accounts taken, such as witnesses or police incident reports. What we're going to get, as you all know, and have been seeing probably throughout Twitter, if you're on Twitter poll or Politiwit, Politiwit? Alright, whatever. If you've been on there, then you know that the conservatives have been sleeplessly, relentlessly focusing in on his character as he was before this incident, looking at his past crimes or convictions. They did the same thing to George Floyd because the incident is so horrifying. They have to point out, well, he was a porn star and he was on meth, you see, and that's why he deserved to die, or at least it doesn't matter. So that's the line of thinking and thought process that a conservative mind instantly goes to, is that, well, how good of a person was he? You know, I mean, if he got shot 7 times in the back, you gotta wonder, was he even a very good person?
In police, he also has past charges for domestic abuse and a sex crime as well, and there's a warrant for his arrest. That is what we know documentarily.
Yep. He has a sex crime. That means execution by police is warranted at any minute. If you commit a sex crime, or are convicted of domestic abuse, or assaulting a police officer, if you have any of these crimes, please expect death for you at any moment when you are pulled over. You are in America. We keep our people free. Dirty criminals.
Okay, so that doesn't mean that the shooting is good. It doesn't mean that the shooting is bad. I'm just telling you what we know at this point. What we don't know.
Exactly. So why is that even relevant to the situation? We don't even know if they called this individual in. We don't know why the cops were there. The man's record is not important. So would he go back and look at the 2 officers? Were their names even released? Because I would doubt it, for the fact of needing probably to protect them. I don't know. So if Ben could actually get the names of the officers and find out whether or not they have past records, because I remember Derek Chauvin's coming out. It trickled out. It was slower. I think, who was it? Michael Brown's killer. He also had a record that we didn't really seem to focus in on as much as Michael Brown's incident at the convenience store, which painted him as a criminal. So, suspect? Yeah, I'll just rule it suspect and move on.
Is whether he was reaching for a gun. We don't know what's in the car. We don't know anything.
We don't know anything.
So the responsible position would be, in this particular
he's asserted
case,
this
you hold
idea.
off on judgment. Maybe it's a bad shooting. Maybe it's not a bad shooting. Maybe it was racially driven.
Wait.
We literally...
When is a good shooting? When is a good shooting? Is hunting a duck a good shooting? I mean, that's fucking subjective, because for some people, like, murdering a duck with a shotgun for your own pleasure seems pretty sadistic. So let's just count that out for now. Shooting a bad guy with a gun. Maybe, but it's a bad situation. There's probably other people with gunshot wounds in them. There's never a good shooting, even if you're taking down a bad guy. I'm going to be honest with you, because that's still not a good situation. You can celebrate it, I guess, you know? I guess.
really have no evidence of that. Maybe it's not racially driven. We do not know what happened here, right? That would be the responsible.
2 minutes in, and he cannot say enough that we don't know what's going on, and yet we're going to spend 13 more minutes describing what you should think about this situation. All right, Ben, please continue.
Play here by the media. That would be the responsible play here by your political class. Unfortunately, responsibility matters not on Twitter, and it matters not in American public life anymore.
No, nothing matters on Twitter. Nothing matters on Twitter. Nobody should take anything of substance from Twitter. Memes, good dunks, spicy hot takes, but responsibility? Is this what happens when a president can't stop tweeting? Because let's talk about responsibility then, Ben. Oh, no, he don't want to go there. Let's stay on topic. Sorry, I really get off on tangents. I get off on them so hard.
Instead, everybody immediately jumps to their pre-existing biases, and that is particularly true on the BLM left, which has decided that this is yet another example of an unarmed black man being shot for no reason at all by the police.
I mean, he's extending probably the position that some people are taking, or he is, on the money for the position that some people are taking. The fact that I don't know, except all I see is a cop holding a man by a shirt and then unloading 7 bullets into his back. Not only is the cop cowardly, but also... oh, wait, I feel like that's a big enough issue. Yeah, I feel like we should expect a lot more from police, and they should also know how to arrest more people without pulling out their guns. I mean, like, we hear these cases growing and growing and growing, and that's because the presence of cell phones with video and the internet, I mean, it's everywhere. And, you can't really avoid it anymore as much as you probably could back in the 90s. God damn it. See, I get off on tangents so hard that I just create my own lane. Let's get back on topic. Ben, please help me out.
For racial reasons.
All right.
And our politicians are simply repeating this, and so are our media. The headline from CNN today: Wisconsin police shoot black men as children watch from a car, attorney says.
Yep, 3 children were in the car. I don't think Ben has actually acknowledged this fact. 3 children, all of Jacob Blake's, were in the car to witness their dad being shot in the back 7 times. You got to kind of wonder, depending on what the situation was, what that situation itself, that event, is going to teach those children.
Okay, so we're now just taking at face value what the attorney says with no additional evidence provided by the cops. The cops have not provided an account of what has happened as of yet at this hour. According to CNN, 2 Wisconsin police officers...
Yeah, but that's incredibly what's more important to Ben than the lawyer of the victim is the police account. That's more important to Ben, so...
On leave Monday, as state authorities investigate why a black man was shot multiple times in the back as he entered the driver's side door of an SUV, official said. Among the witnesses to the Sunday evening shooting in Kenosha were the man's 3 sons. Attorney Ben Crump and the American Civil Liberties Union said the man, identified by the Wisconsin governor as Jacob Blake, is in serious condition and fighting for his life. Crump posted a short video of the shooting, garnering almost 700,000 views.
As of right now, he's going to be paralyzed from the waist down for the rest of his life. Ben does not know that, but we do now. And that's what happens when you let a story develop rather than trying to immediately get ahead of it so that people can think what you want them to think, or I don't know. Is this just content creating at this point? What are we doing here? Really? Is this like 15 minutes of hate? Are we already in 1984? What are the fuck we doing here?
Sparking protests that led county officials to institute a curfew until 7 a.m. That'd be 6 a.m. Eastern time on Monday. Protesters overnight broke windows and sprayed graffiti at a Kenosha County administrative building and torched vehicles at a nearby auto dealership. By the way, the torching of the vehicles at the auto dealership was somewhat ironic, considering that the auto dealership literally had a giant sign out front that said Black Lives Matter.
I just always want to kind of talk about this because every time conservatives speak about riots, as they call them, but, I think Kenosha definitely rioted. They went hard. The thing that they always skip is like if there's whether or not there's actual history between the cops and the city or the community. I feel like they're always skipping over that because a community doesn't just burn the city down. That's a rational thought, and I don't really believe that everybody that is a part of these protests trying to get either black liberation or racial justice in general or just police reform, I don't really believe they want to burn down the city in order to get this. Now, I do assume there's Boogaloo Boys and the like that want that revolution to kick off, but like most people are merely just asking to change the laws or change policy and recognize our past and our current actions and really reflect on the soul of the country. But police brutality is usually what ends up meeting these people, these citizens, these communities. And so the only thing that's left for them to do that actually doesn't take lives is to burn down and loot. And it gets your attention and it brings your awareness to that situation. Unfortunately, when that happens, it's still the wrong kind of attention. They say that bad media is as good as good media or some dumb shit like that, but like truly though, if the narrative is spun like a conservative fucking weaves that spider's web of dog shit, it's going to hurt the movement. And it keeps the people who consume this media adversarial to your position. That has been my bread talk. Thank you for joining me. We still got 12 more fucking minutes. Oh my god.
It didn't matter. They torched the vehicles anyway. A fire. I mean, you can see the video of it. It's incredible. I mean, these cars are being burned. I don't know if the cars had anything to do with anything. Apparently nothing. But they were being burned. And right outside there is there's a big sign that says.
I mean, you know, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but like we don't have any proof that who burned down this auto body shop. To be perfectly honest, if they have a Black Lives Matter sign and they know the media is soon to cover this, I just feel like that it's advantageous for a right-winger or further to the right to go into the city, whether they live there or not, and set fire to a business that says Black Lives Matter and to disappear into the night. And conservatives and right-wingers can easily take that destruction and move it over to the people who were upset that night. Because, again, it just seems completely irrational. And to assume people that want racial justice and extremely reformed police, to call them irrational, that's just that mischaracterization that's perfect for this movement over here called the Daily Wire. So, just gonna leave that little nugget there, and you can call it truth or you can call it poop. I don't really care.
Black Lives Matter, so that's exciting stuff happening over in Wisconsin. A fire was started at the county courthouse. Officers in tactical gear formed a line to protect a public safety building, according to the local WISN CNN affiliate. Kenosha is about 40 minutes south of Milwaukee. We also have tape of, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we have tape of some BLM allies, maybe Antifa members, because the guy's white, who walks up literally to a sheriff's vehicle with a long gun drawn, pointing at the sheriff.
It's not pointing.
They
at
stop.
the
They literally are pointing weapons at a sheriff's vehicle.
He's not yet. But there's plenty of dudes there.
Everything is going.
He's not pointing the gun at them yet, but there are several people there with weapons, and yeah, maybe they are anti-fascist, but we do know, if you're well informed in these fucking stupid. I hate politics. I mean, it's so interesting, but like his dishonesty is what makes me hate it. We know that Boogaloo Boys are out there. We don't know if those guys specifically are boogies, but boogies are out there, and they want to pop shit off with the cops. They really want to get this fucking Boogaloo running, dude. So to just say, oh, they're either BLM or they're either Antifa, let's just say, you're just ignoring, and you're doing that Red Scare shit where you want to boogeyman the fuck out of your childish audience. Yeah, I think that's exactly that simple.
Really well.
Honestly, if they had pointed their guns at those officers, those dudes, fucking dead. That whole town would be burnt to the fucking ground. Not just by protesters, but also by the warfare caused by the cops. But also, maybe not, because maybe those two dudes are the only dudes there with guns. So if they were to shoot the sheriffs, they sure as shit would just be dead, while the sheriffs have plenty to replace.
Going really, really well.
You fucking
And naturally,
dickwad.
this would be a good time for our political class to, maybe take the temperature down a little bit. Wouldn't this be a good time for our public leaders to say things like, this is under full investigation. The police officers have been taken off duty while we investigate the incident and find out what happened here. Wouldn't that be a good time to say, let's let the process work? Every single officer involved shooting in the United States.
So now it's the state's fault. Oh, it must be Democrat run. It's probably Democrat run. Let's check it out.
States is fully investigated.
Let's get it.
That does not mean there are not incidents where officers go unpunished for things they should be punished for. That does happen. Okay, but we have no evidence that's going to happen here. We have no evidence of what exactly happened here. And if you are the head of your state's law enforcement body, right? Let's say you're the governor of the state. Wouldn't you say at this point, you're the head of the executive branch? Wouldn't you say at this point, let's wait for the process to work?
All right.
No, our politicians have decided.
How long are people supposed to wait before officers are either suspended, let go, fired? Like, how long do they honestly have to wait before they can go protest, Ben? Because we're getting to that heap of sand. And I feel the energy that Kenosha did not suspend or reprimand these officers immediately. And that's why people reacted in the streets. It's... Do you know? He's got to be a self-aware human being. He's got to be. There's no way I can believe that this man is just completely delusional.
Decided there's much more hay to be made in suggesting openly that this is a racially driven bad police shooting based on no evidence whatsoever yet, right? Just based on that fragmentary tape. Police said they were called to respond to a domestic disturbance.
Yeah, but if that
is
tape
unclear
doesn't upset you,
who called 911.
If that tape doesn't upset you, you have no soul. Like, honestly, it's not as long as George Floyd's death, but it sure as shit was as deadly. It should have been, because, like, point blank range, 7 bullets. I don't know if I can say that he's lucky to be alive, because now he has to deal with this bullshit, being crippled for the rest of his life, and fucking innumerable news commentators saying that it was justified, that sir, you deserve to no longer walk because you resisted arrest. That is what they're spending their time doing. And I've always, like, since I've been hearing this argument, I've been seriously wondering, like, why are citizens not allowed to resist an officer? Because I understand that, criminals would do so. Most of the time, like, I don't know, John Dillinger or Machine Gun Kelly, right? They didn't want to get apprehended by the man, so they would kill cops in order to run away with the bank money. But they had already committed a crime offhand. If you have not committed a crime, it's so much harder to prove it if you resist arrest. You have to just, quote unquote, trust the process. Ugh. I don't understand that, because, like, constantly the libertarians and conservatives are talking about how you had one of the most fundamental rights is the right of self-defense, and that's why they uphold the Second Amendment so motherfucking high on a pedestal. But when it comes to the citizen defending themselves from state authority, it is never justified. It is never allowed. Why are we at this point? And is it because body cams are not effective enough? I don't know why the fuck body cams aren't on all the time. It would be easy enough. I mean, there's no way that officers, if a crime is committed and officers are strapped with cams, which is a very effective weapon at even finding cops committing crimes, they can identify them. Right? You pull them over, you get the license plate, you can find them later, you can bring a whole fucking SWAT team to do it. And then we can finally pay them to get the job done. But also, now I'm getting fucked up because the SWAT also fucks up a lot of shit. They ruin neighborhoods and they kick in doors that don't belong. There's not a perfect way of doing it with the system that we have now, but what I'm saying is we have the opportunities to do better arrests that are more peaceful. If they're peacekeeping, why the fuck do they keep shooting people?
On one, or what happened before the recording begins. It's not clear from the video if both of the officers opened fire. There are 2 officers. The second officer has his gun out as the shots are heard. All officers are cooperating. Neither officer has been identified. DCI, which is the Department of Internal Affairs over there, is continuing to review evidence and determine the facts of this incident and will turn over investigative reports to a prosecutor following a complete and thorough investigation, the statement said. Okay, so what did our wonderful members of the political class do here? Instead of taking down the temperature, and it does matter if you take down the temperature here, because we have seen situations already, like within the last couple of weeks, in which bad accounts of police shootings went viral and caused actual riots, right? The Chicago Loop riots were caused by online rumors that a child had been shot unarmed by a police officer. It turned out not to be true at all. It turned out that there was a man shooting a police officer.
The right-wing and conservative media has been mischaracterizing this Chicago shooting since the beginning, much like they are doing with the Kenosha, Wisconsin shooting. So the equivalency here to the situations, dog shit. It's dog shit because it's not based in actual reality, and it has nothing to do with the actual reports coming out of Chicago. If you don't believe me, actually look it up and consume as much media as you can, rather than just this one dude with a yarmulke on. I appreciate the yarmulke, bro, but, like, I know God ain't above you.
Officers who was shot. Didn't matter. People went and rioted in the Chicago Loop. By the way, rioting is not justified even if there's a bad shooting. We have answers for that in this country. That is called the police officer goes to jail. That is called the police officer is dragged up on charges, as they should be if you do something wrong.
What?
Okay, the answer to this...
What? Does he not sit there and always protect the fucking immunity, bro? Qualified immunity. He defends it like a motherfucker. Like, no, Ben. And you know that doesn't happen. Let's just make shit up because...
This is never burning crap in the streets. But our political class, at least on the left, have decided it is mostly important that they get their spilkas out on Twitter, that they go out there and...
The last thing that I had read about an officer actually being arrested was when they had raped a girl in the backseat of their car. Dash cam footage caught him. It has to be that fucking bad. But a murder on tape so far has not done it. What a little turd.
And they showed their narrative empathy on Twitter. And if you don't jump to a conclusion on Twitter, you're considered bad, right? If you wait too long. If you wait too long, then you're considered... If you say, maybe we should wait for the evidence, and then I'll say that this fits into a pattern of X, Y, or Z.
Wait. So are you outselling your morals for not waiting for more evidence? Because, Ben, this is contradictory to what the fuck you're doing right now. Come on. Let's not just, like, hip-hop hypocrisy, like, in the middle of your show, Ben. It's embarrassing.
Considered bad and wrong and terrible. Our political incentive system rewards people who jump out front and back a narrative before the evidence is in. And then what if the evidence doesn't back it? We just ignore it. It just goes away. Right? We just rewrite the situation, the factual situation, in order to meet the narrative.
What?
This is what happened with Michael Brown. People
it?
still list Michael Brown among quote-unquote victims of police shootings, despite the fact that the Obama DOJ found that shooting to be justified, despite the fact that local...
Do not bring up Michael Brown, bro. Again, like another situation that they have completely mischaracterized, especially since it's like, what? When was Michael Brown shot? Like 2014. 6 years can add a lot of fog to the memory of that situation. And they have been mischaracterizing that young man since the day he died. So please, Ben, do not. And the thing is if you read the Department of Justice thing, which is from Eric Holder, if I'm not wrong, right? I think that was the DOJ for Obama at the time. A black man, if you will. 2 black men in positions of power. They only took in the witness accounts that agreed with the police narrative. The DOJ report did not include Michael Brown's friend who was right next to him when he died. It did not include his eyewitness account whatsoever. It didn't include anybody else who was actually there. Also, that didn't agree with the police narrative. They didn't include theirs because they said there was too much contradictions, or there's overlapping information, or whatever's really needed to get this not in the report, you know? So, Ben, and your viewers, please do some more research, and you will find that you can be a much more authentic human being And you won't have to live a lie so often. How do you do it? How do you carry the burden of so many lies? I really don't know.
Prosecutors twice found that shooting to be justified. Michael Brown in all the lists is always included in the lists. Freddie Gray is always included in the list of wrongful police killings, despite the fact that there was a full investigation into Freddie Gray's death and he was not actually murdered by the police. He died because they didn't buckle him into the back of the police van properly, and then he banged his head, unfortunately, on the back of the...
He died in police custody, though. He wasn't actually murdered by the police. He was just murdered at the back of their, I'm sorry. He accidentally hit his head in the back of their police cruiser. It's not even just the lies. Maybe he actually believes this is truth, and he actually sees some sort of moral light at the end of this tunnel. But he just keeps justifying the deaths of black men at the hands of the state, and it's very strange to me how you could find a moral light in that. It has to be white supremacy. It has to be the mission of the 14 words that would compel a person to commit their life to justifying the murder of black people. Alright, that's the only conclusion I can reach. Ben, please.
The police van, right? That is the actual autopsy showing. There was a full investigation done.
Yeah.
All of Rayshard Brooks is listed among the victims of police violence, even though he tried to tase two separate officers and was firing a taser at an officer when he was shot.
Mischaracterization yet again. Eyewitness account said that he was running away. I actually am not familiar with Rayshard Brooks' autopsy, though. So, since we're autonomous human beings, we might as well go see if there is an autopsy on Rayshard Brooks at this point. Research now. Gotta go do some research, 'cause I don't believe what short people tell me all the time. Alright, YouTube. Shot twice in the back. Huh. How do you shoot a taser from... Like, how do you shoot a taser when they're behind you? You know, let's just go find another one. Let's go find another one. Let's see, that was CNN, so let's go find another one. Oh, what does Fox News say right here? What? Hold on, it's loading. I think I got something. It's like reeling in a fish here, but my internet is this piece of shit fish pole. Alright. Let's see. Oh. 2 gunshot wounds to the back. Ooh, even Fox News says to the back. So, fascinating how he would shoot a taser while not looking behind him. That officer must have been fucking terrified for his life. Alright, so we had CNN saying wounds to the back, and we had Fox News saying wounds to the back, and then we had Ben Shapiro not giving 2 shits about the truth. That was easy enough for me. I literally just typed in Rayshard Brooks autopsy, which tells me that either Ben and his audience don't research it, or Ben has known that, and he just doesn't care. Look at, if you can go on the YouTube video, you should look at his crooning face. He looks like a fucking goon, like he's been sucking the blood of innocent black deaths for a millennia. It's wild.
The individual facts of the circumstances don't matter. They don't matter at all. Only the narrative matters. And once the narrative has been set,
thank you for admitting it,
then
Ben.
the victims and the villains have been drawn.
Thank you.
And then we just change up the narrative we just change up the facts in order to match the narrative.
Thank you. Ben, literally, if I can take him out of context there, literally explained what he does. Perfect.
We're going to see this in just 1 second. And it really is egregious. It's creating excuses for people to burn cities, which is terrible. And if you're a member of the political class, it is literally your job to prevent this from happening. This is the only reason that you're in government, is to prevent people from doing violence to one another and violating each other's rights. That is your only reason for being in government.
Could we consider cops part of the political class? Because if we do, then they've been failing at their job as well. By committing jobs, or I guess acts, worthy of firing them.
And yet your suggestion is that riots are somehow justified because America is a deeply horrible, terrible, very evil place with no evidence yet in this case. None. By the way, we still don't know if Derek...
I mean, I feel like a lot of African Americans may feel that way, that America is a horrible, terrible place worth burning down. But, you know, I don't know about hundreds of years of slavery and disenfranchisement and austerity. I don't know if that can really have effects on people.
Chauvin murdered George Floyd. First of all, whether he murdered him, and the autopsies are conflicting. But we...
Oh my fucking God. So when people say the murder of George Floyd, and I'm pretty sure I've heard Ben say it before, that the death of George Floyd is wrong, and nobody's saying that it wasn't egregious. He's in custody, Derek Chauvin. But right there, he just said that George Floyd's autopsies conflict on whether or not he was murdered. How could you have believed it was wrong on the onset of that video, and yet believe that? Believe that the autopsies are conflicting, so you're not sure if he was murdered. The autopsy said he died of asphyxiation. Come on, man. You know this. But you guys somehow say that there was drugs in his system, which we don't know because the second autopsy was unable to get it within proper amount of time to know whether or not he did have drugs in his system. Benny, you could have used your power for good, but it was just too damn hard, wasn't it?
We still don't know whether that had anything to do with race. There is no evidence it had to do with race rather than just police brutality.
As far as we know, the reason why it may have done a lot with race is because cops feel a certain kind of impunity when they kill black people. And I don't know if it's because of Freddie Gray. I don't know if it's because of Michael Brown. I don't know if it's because of Eric Gardner. I don't know if it's because of Breonna Taylor. Still haven't been arrested. I don't know, Ben. I don't know. You know, sometimes I just use my eyes and I look around, and sometimes I close them and just listen. I don't think about how I can spin shit. It's exhausting.
It doesn't matter. The narrative's already been set. And once the narrative is set, it cannot be unset. How do our absolutely responsible politicians respond to all of this? In the least responsible possible way. And truly, it's disgusting. When you have public officials who are backing a narrative without the evidence in, it's horrifying. So Governor Tony Evers, who's the governor of the state of Wisconsin, right? He's the governor where this happened. Here's what he said. He says, while we do not have all the details yet, what we know for certain is that he is not the first black man or person to have been shot or injured or mercilessly killed at the hands of individuals in law enforcement in our state or our country.
So what I'm saying is conservatives constantly look over the point on whether or not Kenosha, Wisconsin, or the several cities and counties that are probably surrounding it, filled with fucking citizens. We don't know their history between them and their police. And it might not be what Ben understands as his relationship between him and the police.
Do you understand how deeply horrifying that statement is from a politician? Well, we don't know anything about the shooting. We do know that all of these terrible things have happened in the past. What? I mean, seriously, what? So...
Yeah, Ben. What?
You have a situation where you don't know whether a murder occurred or whether a justified shooting occurred, and you just lump it in with all of the racial murders of the past in the United States. Without any evidence in yet.
Yeah, but you're foaming at the mouth to be like, aha! Justified!
Any investigation yet. Without any knowledge of who the officer is, without any discussion of who the suspect is, without any discussion of the situation surrounding the officer and the suspect.
He deserved it!
That's just how that is the only thing that we know. Right, is that we know that America is a deeply horrible racist place. It's not just the governor of the state. It is his responsibility to keep his state from burning. It is his responsibility, and he has completely betrayed that responsibility. It's not just him. It's politicians.
I'm sure if he did what he was supposed to do by arresting the officers, Ben would be sitting here saying how horrible it was that he just outright arrested them before any evidence was shown. So, before we know the situation.
Across the Democratic spectrum, Jamal Bowman, who just won a contested
Democrat.
primary in New York.
It's
He just
a
beat Elliot
Democrat.
Engel. So he's going to enter Congress. That's a very Democratic district.
In America, conservatives treat Democrats like they are the Jew. Like, honestly, I can't. Like, their anti-Democrat sentiment is so like, it just rings like how racist and anti-Semitism just thinks, which is just like constantly never understanding, always opposing. Never understanding, always opposing, because if you oppose, you stand for good, which means they stand for evil and they must be destroyed. Please, Ben, continue.
Tweeted out, 3 boys just saw their father shot 7 times in the back by police. No gun, no struggle. He was just walking away. Praying for Jacob Blake to make a speedy and full recovery. The issue is systemic. The Senate needs to respond boldly and humanely. This is why we scream.
The cop did that because he knew he would be immune to real consequences. Either he was going to get suspended, either he, was going to get moved. What we're showing, especially under Trump, is that we love our fucking cops. Trump and I think William Barr is working really hard to make sure he can retain the officers he really needs. And I don't want to make too many presumptions on William Barr, but I would assume that he enjoys a cop who's willing to shoot a quote-unquote criminal 7 times in the back, if the officer himself can justify why. I'm sure that's Bill Barr's policy.
BLM. No gun, no struggle? How do you know that? How does he know? Like, seriously, how do we know? We don't know yet. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's not. I don't know. He doesn't know. It does not matter. I mean, it literally does not matter. If it turns out there was a gun in the car and this guy was reaching for the gun in the car, they'll just say, well, they didn't know there was a gun in the car, so why did they shoot him? Why didn't they tase him? Why didn't they tackle him? All of our newfound police experts who have put their lives on the line to protect their community.
Yeah, but what if that there wasn't a gun in the car? What if there wasn't a weapon at all? Oh, well, he was a domestic abuser, and he police assaulter, and a drug user, and son of a bitch. And the only response you can have to these kind of arguments, instead of wasting your time watching these videos and decaying slowly like I am, you just say, okay, boomer, and then, go listen to the new KSI album. It's pretty good. It's a lot better than this.
Communities, 0%. It's very exciting stuff to watch our politicians virtue signal at the expense of police officers without any evidence. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who has watched her city burn, the same Mayor Lori Lightfoot, by the way, who recently defended a ban on protesters on her block. She literally was fine with Chicago's loop being burned out, but she has allowed the Chicago Police Department to ban protesters being able to demonstrate on the block where she lives. She told reporters last Thursday she and her family at times required heightened security because of the threats she receives daily. Lightfoot refused to elaborate on the specific threats. She receives them daily against herself, her wife, and her home.
It's not even necessarily proof that she's facing threats from BLM or Antifa, because that's just a boogeyman. That's just a straw man. Obviously, anonymous letters, they're not going to be easily traceable, but like, if we're going to assume everything is done by the BLM and Antifa in times like this, then everybody's going to assume also, like, you just leave open that it could be conservatives, it could be boogaloos, it could be white supremacists, neo-Nazis, 3%ers, it could be literally anything. It could be the Nation of Islam, for all we know. So, but it's so much easier for Ben and his 15-minute of hate viewers to just be like, yeah, fuck the left. The fucking left is always pooping in my garage. I fucking hate them.
She says, I think residents of the city, understanding the nature of the threats that we are receiving on a daily basis, understand I have a right to make sure that my home is secure. Oh, really, Lori Lightfoot? So you have a right to expect that your home is secure, but nobody else's home is secure. Just you.
You understand that the President of the United States has a secret service, a personal bodyguard, if you will. I think a mayor and her cops probably right around the same thing. So.
We had the same thing with Jenny Durkin, the mayor of Seattle. In the middle of Chaz Chop, when they set up the separate republic in the middle of Seattle, where people's businesses were overrun by an actual anti-government, anti-American rebellion. And
yeah, that's why they let them move the blockades, is because they were so anti-government. mischaracterizations get pretty exhausting trying to debate because it's just not based in real reality. So I have to like jump into Neverland and play make believe, and that just leaves like a lot of room for me to fuck it up if I was to actually argue positions for the left side of the spectrum, because we're not living in a reality. We're debating something that's completely fictional. It has a little kernel of truth, is that like the location, the setting is the same, but the actual events that occurred, that's what we see differently. That's why I am right and you are left, and yada 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 yada. It's exhausting. Like, it's almost impossible, and that's why I really have no hope for this country. But at the same time, like, you know, I think plenty of people, when pushed into a corner, I think are able to follow their gut. So, I mean, we're all going to see how this thing shakes out, you know, and that's if, like, smoke doesn't cover your cities.
Allowed that to happen for weeks on end. She only got pissed when people started marching on her home. In Portland, we've seen Mayor Ted Wheeler allow people's businesses, their homes, to be threatened. We're seeing it in Washington, D.C. We're seeing it in New York. We're seeing it in Los Angeles. We're seeing all this stuff happen. The only people who matter are our political class. Only our political class matter. They get to say whatever irresponsible, insane thing they want to say.
Ooh, those
but they are
dams.
protected, so they're fine. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, her house is protected. Doesn't matter, the Chicago Loop gets basically ransacked. So what did she tweet about this? Quote, yesterday in Wisconsin, a police officer shot Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man, a father, 7 times in the back. I am deeply disturbed by the video capturing part of the incident. I urge civil and criminal authorities to pursue an immediate and thorough investigation of the shooting. First of all, they are doing an immediate and thorough investigation of the shooting. Second of all, she's disturbed by the video capturing part of the incident. If you don't have the whole incident, then sure, that part of the video is disturbing. I mean, whenever somebody gets shot on video, it's disturbing. But wouldn't you want to have, like, the whole video? Wouldn't you want to know all the circumstances? And it doesn't matter, because she's already characterized the situation. It's a police officer shooting Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man. Again, we don't know if he was unarmed. A father, 7 times in the back. And they won't mention the fact, you know, of the prior criminal record. Like, if you're going to take into account only the things that we know.
He considers it a failing to not take their previous record in if they don't take that into context along with what the police did in the situation, then he finds that as a moral failing. Why don't we just find out what his GPA was, Ben? Why don't we just go all the way back and see what his school record is? That way we can fully judge him as the human being that he is.
Then perhaps the prior criminal record goes into the officer's thinking. They pull up a rap sheet on the guy while they're driving to the place, perhaps. I mean, we don't know the answer to any of that. Doesn't justify the shooting. Yet, we don't know. But that's the whole point. We don't freaking know. I'm saying we don't know. Why can't these people say we don't know? And the answer is because the narrative matters way more than the actual facts of the case. Representative Joe Kennedy, who's running for Senate in Massachusetts, he tweeted out, there will be no end to the police brutality and white supremacy black Americans confront on a daily basis without action and real change. Jacob Blake, an entire nation is praying for you. He literally does not know what happened here because no one knows what happened here. I didn't realize that Joe Kennedy was now God.
I'm sorry, I gotta see him slam his fist again.
Here because real change. Jacob Blake, an entire nation is praying for you. He literally does not know what happened here because no one knows what happened here. I didn't realize that Joe Kennedy was now God. There will be no end to the police brutality and white supremacy black Americans confront on a daily basis. No end to it? This is like when Michelle Obama said at the convention last week, there's a never-ending list of black people shot by police. Nope, that list ends. It turns out that list ends. It turns out the list of unarmed black men shot unjustifiably by police is in, like, low double digits. And even that is disputed. It's the Washington Post database. So it turns out that list has an end. Joe
Is it long enough for you, Ben, or is it not long enough? That makes me wonder.
Kennedy saying there's no end to police brutality and white supremacy. Weird, because there was a Gallup poll that was done 2 weeks ago that say 81% of black Americans want the same level of policing in their communities or more policing in their communities, which is a weird thing to want if you are constantly being targeted by the police.
I hear this
on racial basis
all the time. I hear this statistic all the time. I gotta look it up real quick. 80% of African American want more police? I feel like that's what he said. Black Americans want police to retain local presence. 81% of Black Americans want police to maintain or increase presence. This is Fox News, but apparently it was gathered by the Gallup. Interesting. Yeah, Gallup says that. I like how woke this article or this headline is. Why won't Democrats listen to blacks about defunding cops? Jesus. Alright, Reason.com has the same thing. I don't think my fucking browser's gonna load it up though. So we might have to skip it, bro. Genuinely interested in this statistic. Because I've heard it multiple times, but I just don't know too much about it. So Gallup. Alright, let's see here. As calls to defund and abolish the police grow around the country, a new poll by Gallup finds that large majority, 81% of Black Americans, want the same or increased levels of police presence in the neighborhoods. Just 19% of Black Americans said they want the police to spend less time in their neighborhoods. A figure that accords with earlier surveys finding that only 22% of Black Americans want to get rid of police forces as we know then. Right. Preference for amount of time police spend in your area. Wait. It says 20%. 20% want more time. 61% say same amount of time. And 19% said less time. So the less time is almost equivalent to the more time, but the same amount of time is definitely the large leap there. And it seems like everybody has a pretty firm consensus that we should have same amount of time police patrol, I guess. Gallup collected the data online between June 23rd and July 6th from a representative sample of over 30,000 respondents who were sorted into one of four categories. The survey also found that Black Americans' reported exposure to local police is slightly above the national average, with 32% saying they see the police often or very often in their neighborhood. This compares with 22% of white Americans and 21% of Asian Americans. Hispanic Americans' experience is similar to that of Black Americans, with 28% often seeing police where they live. That doesn't sound awesome. Sounds a bit biased. Most other Black Americans, 41%, say they sometimes see police in their area, matching the national average, while another 27% say they rarely see. I guess online 30,000 would be very random. Although, and here's what they are missing, is amount of time spending in your patrolling your area isn't necessarily the problem that people have with the police. That's not a part of defunding the police. They could certainly spend less time in the streets. I don't know. It depends. I get why people would be pretty like, yeah, they can stay there about the same amount of time because I see them occasionally, right? If we were seeing them constantly all the time, then probably not. I mean, I live pretty close to a police station, so that I see them more often than not. But most people probably not living next to those would see them less often, so that kind of makes sense for them to be like, I don't need that to change. But here's where the Gallup survey gets more interesting that I seem to find that Ben Shapiro has left out. An earlier Gallup survey found overwhelming support among all Americans for major changes, 58%, in the way police departments operate. Yep. Yep. If we defund the police officers, I don't think that necessarily means that they have to spend less time in the neighborhoods. That means that they don't get necessarily the fancy toys that they want, like the tanks. Like they've been donated so many tanks. It's amazing too because they get so much money out of civil forfeiture. I think a great way to defund the police and throw that money into the community would be taking their civil forfeiture thing and moving those stolen items into a community pool. So for the cops to get that shit, that's just wild to me. Yeah, every turn we look is just surface level as fuck. So thank you, Ben, for that awful report. Greatly appreciate it. That was completely fair and balanced. Hashtag. And now for the final piece, the piece de la resistance. Oh, God. We're going to have Trump dropping his second-term agenda, and why any sane person would agree with it, and why Tim Pool is going to be voting for Trump.
As of right now, I believe President Donald Trump is on track for a re-election victory and potentially a landslide, partly due to the riots, but there are some reasons to believe he might not win, notably the mail-in voting fiasco. Now, Trump is warning of fraud, but inaccuracy is extremely likely. Lawsuits are extremely likely, and I think the whole process may be delayed, backed up, and it's going to get a bit nuts. But if we go just on the current polls, although Donald Trump is not leading nationally, the national vote doesn't matter that much. What matters are battleground statistics. And according to a CNN poll recently, Donald Trump is within 1 point of Joe Biden in 15 battleground states. And their poll had a margin of error of 4%, meaning Donald Trump may be winning. But another poll recently came out showing Donald Trump leading among independent voters with 10%. And that's huge. Amid all of this, something interesting is happening. The Democrats seem to be in complete disarray, and the GOP has announced no new 2020 platform. Why? They're going to be enthusiastically supporting Trump's agenda. That's right. The GOP is being crushed, the same as the Democrats. I've never been a big fan of the Republicans, but here I am looking at Donald Trump's second term